Hello everyone and welcome to Felix's Space Time. In today's video, I've got an interview with Scott Poteet and Anna Menon, crew members of the Polaris Dawn mission. We talk all about their mission from the training leading up to the launch itself, and returning home. So make sure to watch until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Thank you so much to the both of you for agreeing to come on here for an interview today. Welcome back to Earth. First of all, for those who aren't quite familiar with your roles on this mission, could you sort of give a brief overview of what your kind of your mission roles were during Polaris Dawn?
After you, Anna.
Sure. I'm Anna Menon. My role on Polaris Dawn was as one of the mission specialists as well as the medical officer.
Wonderful.
And I am Scott Kid Poteet. I was the mission pilot for Polaris Dawn.
Amazing. Starting it off, Anna, both you and Sarah now have become the women to have traveled furthest from the Earth, a truly inspiring accomplishment. How long before the mission did you find out that that would be happening? I'd love to hear your general thoughts on it.
I guess, we knew that one of our major mission objectives was to go further from the Earth than humans have gone in decades. And so that's always been a fundamental part of this mission. But I think that, we were really just excited to, see SpaceX conquer that objective. And, it took a tremendous team behind us to, build the technology and the analysis to get us to that point. And so just really a huge accomplishment by the SpaceX team.
Yes, definitely. And kind of looking onto the training side of things, a mission like this with so many tough objectives naturally comes with a lot of training. I'd like both of you to list three parts of the training each, your favorite, the one you found the hardest, and the one you thought was the most important. Anna, would you like to start?
Sure. Okay, this is fun. So my favorite, very difficult. I loved every bit of training that we did. And I think every piece of it was really foundational to creating, our readiness for this mission, both individually as a crew and then as a larger SpaceX team. I would say one of the highlights for me was doing simulations with the mission control team. I think that, having been on the mission control side of missions before and sitting in that room, I have always loved mission control. I love the dynamic nature of it, the problem solving, the teamwork, and to get to be on the other side and working with mission control was just such an absolute joy. And I loved being this large team problem solving together. So that was certainly one of the highlights. I think one of the more challenging pieces of training was the skydiving we did with the US Air Force Academy. That was a piece of training where we were really putting to the test our abilities to, execute complex procedures in a high stress, high consequence environment. And it was this wonderful, fantastic first hand opportunity to really put that in action here on the Earth before, we're in space and may need to lean into those sorts of skills. And so there was certainly it was challenging because it is a high stress, high consequence environment. But I think that was the beauty of it. And it was really fantastic training. We learned a tremendous amount, both as individuals and as a crew. And then to answer your third question, maybe one of the most foundational pieces of training that we leaned upon in space was the training we did on Mount Cotopaxi, where we got comfortable being uncomfortable together. That occurred at the very beginning of our training campaign, now over, 2.5 years ago. And it laid a foundation for us as a crew. We had to work through the discomfort of, putting one foot in front of the other when it's cold and dark and, you're going up a mountain for hours and hours, and it's, all sorts of good training from that. And I think in space, it's not comfortable at every moment. And I think that, being able to really lean upon each other and, have the tools as both individuals and as a team to persevere and execute our flight objectives, no matter what the baseline environment was a really like critical piece of the team.
Amazing. And I'd like to come back to that mission control in a second.
Sure.
How about you, Scott?
So before I divulge my favorites, most significant and most challenging, and actually two of them are going to be combined, but I will say, as we take time to reflect on what we learned from the mission and based on going through that experience, what would we have done different? What worked well? I would say overall, the training that we went through is highly critical for mission success. Granted, it took us 2.5 years to get to this point. There were numerous delays along the way, and actually, I'm kind of thankful we did have those delays to give us more opportunities to train. And when you ask these questions on favorites, most significant, and most challenging, there are so many things that I think about from our training that would totally fit in any of those categories. As far as my favorite, I will throw out there the fighter jet training. It never gets old to fly fighter jets, but there is a lot of correlation to what we do in fighter jets that has a direct relationship with how we operate and function in space, from checklist procedures to communication to working together with crew resource management. All those elements are critical to mission success, and it never gets boring flying a fighter jet. I also enjoyed climbing the mountain and everything that Anna highlighted as far as the importance of that type of training. I echo. I will say, there are people that have questioned, what's the importance of climbing a mountain, but going through space flight only reinforces the desire to do those types of training, to put you in those situations that are slightly uncomfortable, because you got no reset button up in space. You got to deal with the circumstances you've dealt. I would say one of the most significant, when we talk about training, we talk about the physical elements, the intellectual, mental side of training, and the emotional. And the launch as well as the downhill phases are very physically demanding and emotionally demanding, because it's a higher risk element of the mission, and being prepared for what you're going to experience is very important. And going through the centrifuge, going through those profiles of what those G forces are going to feel like, helps you build that confidence on the physical side, the mental side, as well as the emotional side. So I think that is really important. And anyone going to space that is going to experience those types of G transitions need to experience it beforehand. And I would say probably the most challenging for me would be, what Anna discussed as far as her favorite was the rehearsals in the simulator. I had a crew that was, you couldn't ask for a better crew as far as intellect and experiences with the systems and the operations and the procedures and the protocol and the contingency reactions than Sarah and Anna. So that was definitely challenging for me to kind of play this catch-up game throughout the last 2.5 years, because it's, we challenged ourselves with a very demanding mission, and it was designed to be developmental, operational in nature, so we could continue to push the envelope and further our desire for space exploration. So in and of itself, it was going to be challenging no matter what, but having the crew that we did helped me get through the program, and I think ultimately set us up for a very successful mission.
Amazing. And you also talked a bit about doing those kind of, especially the mountain climbing. That's a really good point there about being able to work together in any situation. Did you do any other training like that?
Scuba diving, I would put up there. And all those types of training, ultimately gets you to the same end result of having you get comfortable in these uncomfortable, slightly elevated risk activities. And each one of us are going to be tested slightly different depending on the modality of what we're doing. Flying a fighter jet, um, sounds arrogant, but I could do it in my sleep, and that is not a very stressful activity for me. I don't think it's the same approach if you put Anna and Sarah in the cockpit. Um, on the flip side, you challenge me with certain procedures and understanding the systems on dragging. Um, I get all sweat and bothered, and I'm looking to phone a friend next door, so she can bail me out when I'm, fumbling along in the procedures.
Amazing. Coming back to you, Anna. You mentioned so you've worked in mission control before. What was it like being on the other side of that? And the training that went into that, did you find it, was there anything that you knew that you learned while training with mission control?
It was a fascinating experience. To just give an example, as we were sitting on the launch pad in our spaceship and we slipped that first T0 and moved into the second, my brain was immediately thinking about, transporting myself into the mission control room, thinking about what is the mission director doing right now? What is the team working through? What are the discussions they're having? Remembering what it felt like to be in that room. And so for me, I think it served as this kind of emotional bridge back to the ground. And I think, what I found to be wonderful is that, it provided this awareness of a lot of the resources and methodologies that the ground control team uses to make decisions. And so really intimate awareness of flight rules, ground products and things like that, and the tools they use to make decisions was to me just really informative and, was I found to be a useful resource when sitting in the seat in the spaceship.
Wonderful. Moving on to talk a bit about the suit. For me, the EVA suit reveal was the thing that I was looking forward to the most in the run up to the launch. How many iterations of that suit did the crew try on before getting to that final product that you all wore at the launch, during the EVA, and during landing?
I easily, hard to put a number on it. There were so many iterations over time, but I think, it wasn't like an entire spacesuit and then a new entire spacesuit another day. It was piecewise iterations of we'd go in one Friday, we'd have the suit on, it would have a specific arm. And then on Monday, we'd come back and they would have tweaked the arm in a certain way, and you'd have the new arm on the spacesuit. And so they were doing little iterations to the different pieces of the spacesuit over time as, we were testing out the functionality via various different simulations and things like that. And so their ability to just continue to iterate, tweak, and refine to get to a fantastic finished product just blew me away.
Wonderful. And how quickly did that iteration and go on, Scott?
Oh, I was just going to pile on the fact that, the big takeaway from the suit development is there is no number you can put on it as far as iterations, and it's a continuous process. And the idea is what we learned from the development of this suit is just going to make it into the next suit and enhance. In fact, the last few days have been a debrief analysis of what we've learned, and they're already conceptualizing what some of the changes will be in the future. And throughout the entire 2.5 years, we'd show up and it'd be a totally different iteration of some new function feature to the suit. So I think it's just my point being, it's just a testament to the dedication of the suits team at SpaceX and how they're committed to the overall vision of creating a suit that someday will be utilized by hundreds, if not thousands, walking on the lunar surface and eventually Mars. And it's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to that point. But that's what they're committed to. And what we learned from the development of this suit is it's only just begun. And we will take a couple minutes to kind of pat ourselves on the back and say job well done. But not too long from now when we're like, what's next? How is this going to be enhanced, and what does the next mission look like?
Yeah. And you talked a bit, Anna, about kind of you had one day and then the next there was something different. How quickly did that kind of iteration happen? How long did it take from wearing, say, that first part of the suit to getting all the way to the end and having the final one? How long was that process?
I think there was development probably the full duration leading up to the mission until we really hit a stable place sometime in advance of going in the vacuum chamber. Like it was really important to have the final flight spacesuits when we tested them at vacuum, and so they were well in advance of the vacuum chamber. They were at a really, really like polished, finalized state so that we could test like we fly.
Wonderful. Scott, this next question is to you from my mum. You were doing training for your Ironman prior to the launch. Have you had the chance to carry on that training since you landed? And if so, do you think that the launch and going to space has affected your performance in any way?
I just finished my swim here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning to go down to Tennessee
Right.
for my Ironman this weekend. So
Ooh,
the training continues. And I think the takeaway from this question is the importance of physical fitness. I am 50. I'm on the older one of the group. And um, I do feel like physical fitness plays a crucial role in being able to handle the stressors of space. We talk about the physical elements of the fluid shifting, the brain lift, the space fog, the space adaptation syndrome. All of these things, are just indications that the human body is not adapted to the space environment, microgravity, and it's not only a physical and mental demand; it's emotional too. The views that we had from the capsule, they're breathtaking as far as the radiant glow of the planet, the perfection, and it's just constantly changing, and all the weather patterns. And we're up there, and we have this opportunity to view Earth that very few people have had the luxury of seeing, but we can't experience it because we're in this, like, we're in a capsule, we're in a metal tin can. Not downplay the significance of the Dragon capsule, but um, it only wanted me to, I craved the smells and feeling the wind and exploring nature and traveling. So um, I kind of took this answer, in a little different direction, but um, the demands of space travel is very difficult on all levels: physical, mental, emotional, and being fit on all of those elements um, is critical to to faring well in that type of environment.
amazing. And with sort of your Ironman, has that made training for this mission a bit easier, the physical part of the training?
In some respects, I'm a little obsessive about it as far as how much time I dedicate to swim, bike, and run. Um, Certainly don't have to do this much in preparation for space, but something is critical. You're not using your muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and it's counterintuitive in the fact that you would think you wouldn't have to be fit, but there are so many other stressors that are applied to the body where physically fit just kind of prepares you for those elements. So um, it was, 5 days is not that long. It was a nice taper leading up to my Ironman, but physical fitness is critical.
Wonderful. And Anna, this next question is for you. I'll be back just one sec. I need to collect something from my bookshelf here.
Show and tell.
Anna, could you talk to me a bit about this, Kisses from
Aww.
Space? When did you know that you wanted to write to and create this absolute masterpiece?
Oh, thank you. Very early on, actually, the idea was born. I was really just thinking to myself of, knowing that I was going on this mission really just a couple of months after we were selected. And I was contemplating, this is going to be the furthest work trip I've ever taken from my family, my kids. And I was thinking of ways to connect with them. And that was when the idea of a story was born. My husband and I, on our work commutes back and forth to SpaceX for many years, we had told stories to our kids to just occupy the time. And they ended up serving as beautiful connection points as we were apart from each other during the workday. And so when I was thinking of ways to connect, the idea of connecting through story really came to mind, and it seemed like there was nothing better than the idea of a story about a family of dragons when flying on the Dragon spacecraft.
Wonderful. And do you think this book will be able to help kind of other families whose parents are, go on, like you said, like a long work trip? Do you think that can help other people as well?
I certainly hope so. I think, it in my mind, it's absolutely not about the space specifically. It's about the fact that the power of love to overcome any distance. And that is, being apart from your loved ones is something many, many people experience in various capacities. And so my hope is that, the theme of this book is something that a lot of people can find comfort in.
Amazing. Now for the most important question of them all. Would either of you both go back to space if you had the chance? Scott, would you like to go first?
Anna's heard this over and over. I don't know how many times I've mentioned it in interviews, but who knows what I'll do in the future. I am older, so that is certainly a challenge when you talk about how frequent these space missions are. But when I do reflect on what I want to, as a desire, it's such a rare opportunity to go to space. In the future, there's going to be more and more opportunities, but honestly, I'd rather see people like you have the opportunity to go to space. Because one of the points I continue to make is that this mission that we're involved with is bigger than any individual. Anyone could have fulfilled my role. I just happened to be blessed to have this opportunity. In the future, when we talk about Polaris specific missions, time will only tell who the crew is. And it's gonna be driven by what are the objectives of that mission. And those are yet to be determined based on how we did on this mission and what we can learn from Polaris Dawn to ultimately dictate what the milestones and overall big objectives are going to be for Polaris 2. Once it's identified, it's like, okay, based on us doing X, we need to identify crew that would best execute that mission. So it's kind of a dodge, your question, but I don't really think about it that much. I'm more worried about my Ironman this weekend than whether I'm going to go to space in years to come.
Fair enough. How about you, Anna?
I think if given the opportunity to fly in space again, I would be thrilled. But I think, really that's not something I am ruminating on tremendously. I think what I am thinking about is, one, that this mission isn't over. We still have debriefs to do. We still have research data to collect, and we still have a lot to learn from it all. And I am thrilled to continue to be a part of that. But I think, another thing that really stands out to me is that I think going to space just reinforced in me my passion for space. Something that really stands out to me is that I just want to continue to contribute to this industry in any way, shape, or form. And I am thrilled. I have always been thrilled, pinch me, excited to get to be a part of it in any way, shape, or form. And I carry that excitement, maybe even enhanced, having come back from space, and would be thrilled to be a part of any team.
Wonderful. Great answers from you both.
And she's a rock star. She should go to space again.
Like you said, Anna, Polaris Dawn is certainly not over. I imagine you've all got loads more post-flight research and interviews to complete. Once that's all done, what's next for the both of you? Sort of moving on beyond Polaris Dawn. How about you, start, Anna?
I think similar to what I just said, I think, our brains are really focused on Polaris Dawn at this moment. We have a lot to complete still. And so haven't really gotten to the next phase yet. And then though, similar to what I said, like my passion for space remains and is even perhaps enhanced. And so would be thrilled to continue to contribute to this industry in any way.
Wonderful. How about you, Scott?
I got to play catch up, be a husband and father. There's a lot of cross country meets and track meets I've missed over the years that I need to make a top priority in the coming weeks, months. We'll see how it all shakes out in Polaris 2. But I certainly have a lot of gratitude for what I experienced, and ultimately we got to share our message and our story and our experiences. It would be a crime not to, based on the fact that there's only been so many people have been to space, and there's thousands upon thousands that want to go to space. So we have experiences that we must and need to share with the public, and so that will be a priority as well.
Wonderful. But that was my last question for the both of you today. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come and talk to me. And it was following along with Polaris has just been one of my absolute, it's just been so amazing, and getting to watch you launch was just amazing. And I hope our paths cross again, and I'm sure they will in the future.
Thank
Felix, you're a stud, man. Keep it up.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my Patreon page. There'll be a link in the description. Goodbye.